On July 22nd, the world was given the return of the Welcome Home website. Clown literally said let there be puppets and the internet went wild, including me. The Welcome Home website is officially back up, and as promised, I'm actually going to talk about the new pieces of the story we have so far, along with any changes so we can actually finally explore the page again. Unlike last time where the script was made without access to the website, we actually have the page this time, and I intend to use every piece of it to its fullest extent. And I'm even going to talk about a little debate that the community's been having for a while at the end, because I feel like this update will show which side Wally leans more. So before I actually look at the website, I wrote down a few questions we may get answers to. 1. Will the URLs that didn't work originally now be possible? 2. Do other characters know that they're alive? And, of course, the final question 3. Is Wally the villain of the story, or is he just another victim? And now we can actually see the website, so I'm going to talk about what I found, and I will warn you, you may hear some background noise, but I want you guys to see my honest reactions to a lot of this stuff, and of course there will be massive spoilers up ahead. So if you haven't looked at it, please look at it now, because I'll be talking about spoilers and even my own theories at the end. Finally, let's get back into it. The website has changed so much, like I was actually able to film my first reaction for this exact reason. I knew the website was gonna look different, but the new version and the changes to even the loading screen are amazing. I was able to capture some of my reactions to a lot of the new changes and new places. Of course, not all of them, but some. Some of the new changes to the website are mind-blowing. First off, as soon as you load in, you can see the sides of the website have changed, being a lot more detailed, just as colorful as they were in the original. Not just that, but there's two new things. While you look around, there's these tiny pieces of pixel art, and one is specifically the characters in a border. There's normal pixel art, and there's even new tabs to explore, and even little creatures running around, and everything is so cute. Before, we had about 6 tabs, these being the About Us page, the Welcome Home page, News, the Neighborhood, Guest Book, and Links. Today there are about 10, with half of them being brand new. However, Links has been replaced with I consider the new Links page, Media. Besides media, the new pages are stickers, merchandise, transcripts, and the most important one, Playfellow exposition. I think nothing is more appropriate in this time than being a good neighbor and walking around the website for ourselves, going door to door. So let's start with the news page. The newest update to the news page is noticeable. For starters, we went with these two adorable pieces of pixel art of Julie and Frank along with some moving doodles above their heads. A slight visual change, but nothing too important. The restoration team greets us and tells us what's currently going on. In this case, it's actually amazing news. They have confirmation that the show did in fact exist, with the fact they actually have proof of this, which is fantastic. But it also shows that even the restoration team had its doubts about the legitimacy of the show. Sadly though, in this post we are given some very sad news. They tell us that the guest book is closing. You are no longer allowed to submit anything to the guest book, which is sad, but they bring up two very important factors in the Welcome Home page now, to the second to last chapter. I believe closing the guest book was a good idea anyhow. There are images I don't remember uploading to decorate your messages. I don't know how they got there, but please excuse those pesky bugs, dear neighbor. What is a beautiful home without a pest or two? We will do our best to keep things neat, tidy, and organized. So we do confirm in this post, even though we kind of already knew that Wally added those drawings into the guest book, this kind of just tells you verbatim. But this isn't the only thing. Under that, there's an update, and there's actually a little message written by one of the team members. For the sake of linking stuff to other things, I'll call this person Worker A for the rest of the video. He'll be very important later. Worker A wrote underneath this update. So many signatures. So many of them are trying to communicate. What are you telling me for? Do you think I can answer? What are you trying to do to me? I'm closing that guest book. I'm not playing these games anymore. The ringing is enough. So we're gonna look for bugs, which we'll talk about later, and anything that resembles a phone, because there's already a huge emphasis on these. So we'll keep that in mind as we continue. Hey, there's actually a bug on this page too. We'll check out this little guy later. For now, we're gonna continue to the next page, the closed guest book. The guest book page, of course, opens and we have the art of Wally and Barnaby. Scrolling down, we do see that Sally is guarding the guest book and letting us know that it's closed. There's a little doodle appearing next to Wally saying hello. Along with that is some more pixel art and even a little pug next to the Welcome Home logo at the very top of the page. Clicking the guest book, there are some final additions to the page. First off, a worm peeking out of a note from one of the guests on page 1, some brand new drawings at the very back of the page, along with some more being scattered across. And there's even some more doodles and responses. Some are actually in Spanish as well, which Wally responds to in Spanish. These new drawings include Wally's shoe, hearts, a party hat, a horn, a cat TV, Howdy's antennas in a hat, a dream cloud with a cap, a koala, a top hat, a magnifying glass, and much, much more. Which is a lot, but some are very important, so we'll discuss those really fast. Out of all these doodles, there are a few that are actually very important. The sun drawing, a heart, a clock, a blue heart with a yellow face drawn on it, a butterfly, and the telephone. Each of these correspond to a question which can help us understand Wally or what's going on that we can't see. Let's start with the Spanish one. My Spanish is really bad, so I popped out my phone for this to help me translate. This is what the translation is. The rough translation for this is the person talking about how cute Wally is and how they want to be a part of Wally's universe, and they don't mind paying with their memory. Wally responds, "I don't know where we are," which is really strange. But Wally isn't done speaking to others in very mixed ways. In other pages, there's the clock drawing. It's the face of the clock which Cloud has shown on their Twitter before. This one is labeled, "It's not time yet. I'm looking." What is Wally looking for? We don't exactly know yet, and it's not time for what exactly? On page 6, a user named Thomas says, "I wonder what happens in the neighborhood." Wally responds in a butterfly drawing, but the name is a little less than whimsical. "I don't know either." On page 5 holds the telephone. A user named Nostalgia comments about how they're best friends with Wally and how he knows them and they want them to smile. Wally responds, "Then answer me." There's another one of these drawings on page 5, one a little bit more threatening. "What a nice little community. I hope I get to move in one day. Take care everyone and have a lovely day." You will. "Hello Wally, can we be friends? I really want to meet you because everyone should have a friend and be helped. You can count on me, Wally. I will count on you." That brings the adventures of the guest book to a close. But there's more drawings on the page and a lot of them are just mostly silly. But with the closing of the guest book, that's all we have to read from there, which is a shame because it was our first form of communication with the page. But its closing makes a lot of sense. But now, we have more pages to answer and more things to find scattered across this world. But the guest book gives us some information on Wally, specifically. He doesn't know where he is, or where his friends are anymore, and he's looking for something. He's reaching out to people, and assuming by the telephone drawing, there's a lot more questions and answers because of this page. But thankfully we get a lot of them answered very quickly in other pages. We'll save those for later though. Let's look at some of the restoration team's proof of the show's existence. The very thing that flooded homes in the 1970s, the Welcome Home merchandising. The merchandise page is sort of a hefty page to sort through, but thankfully it's categorized at the very top of the page for convenience. It's also this page we learn about another company, which makes two companies we now know the names of, being Playfellow, the creators of Welcome Home, and the toy company called Marlowe Inc. Marlowe Inc. created quite a bit of entertainment with use of toys, records, coloring books. They created most things for the Welcome Home brand too. Let's actually look at these. We're gonna start with my second favorite part of this entire tab, the telephone toy. The It's For You Talking Telephone Toy is a toy line created by Marlowe Inc. based off the characters of Welcome Home. In total, there are about 6 versions of this toy, each being based off a different neighbor, being Sally, Poppy, Julie, Frank, Barnaby, Wally, with Eddie and Howdy's phones never being created. Wally's phone is the one the restoration team currently has access to and who's gracious enough not to just show us the toy, but also the box it came in. Here we can see Wally in front of the box with him saying his most famous catchphrase, "You're the mouse." The plastic sheet in front, so when the telephone was in the box you could actually see it. The box is mostly red with circles of yellow flowers around the top, side, and back. There's even some behind Wally in the front. And the best part is the telephone is actually in working condition. We can hear each of the neighbors' lines of the toy except for Wally's, of course. The restoration team says that Wally's was glitching and has been taken down temporarily from the website. But this isn't the only merchandise they found. There's quite a few. Some actually weren't created by Marlowe Inc. either, and we don't know who did. One of these was the Rainbow Letters playset. With this playset, children were able to pretend to mail letters to the puppets in the show. Keep this in mind because this playset's going to be very important later on. There's even a few records. However, 3 out of 4 of them are in serious need of repairs. The only one that was audible was the Eddie's Big Lift story audiobook, which doesn't really hold much information. And we also see one of my favorite things on the entire page, a cutout standee of the Welcome Home cereal. You heard that right. In the story, Welcome Home was so popular, it had its own cereal. And this little man sat right next to it on the shelves. Honestly, I loved it so much, my friend and I joked that I'd be the type of person who'd steal the cutout. Currently, however, they have not found the cereal itself, but the cutout is a good way to at least know it did exist. And I really hope one day they'll make a lost found footage for the advertisement of this cereal. The last Milo Inc. merchandise we have so far is the Wally Darling coloring book. This cover shows Wally Darling painting an apple, and it shows it was only 30 cents at the time. Alongside it was a restored version of one of its many pages, which is of Julie playing chess. The last thing we saw before, we actually now have some more information on the Valentine's Day cards. However, it seems like in the merchandising they were called Malentine, which is really cute, and we have learned that Wally Darling and Barnaby were going to be featured on the cover of the packaging wearing Eddie's uniform. That hasn't been restored yet, which sounds really adorable, and I really want to see that, and I want to see what it looks like so bad. But for now, that's all the merchandising we have, which is a shame because I really want to see more of these cool ideas. Like, the cutout is absolutely adorable. But let's sit here and talk for a second about the sticker page. Because it's not much, just a little buggy friend at the top of the corner and some really cool pixel art. It doesn't add anything into the story, but the seasonal stickers at the bottom are my very favorite. I especially love the winter and the fall one. I just wanted to add it into the video because there's nothing really in it to add to the story. I just think it's really cool. It's not really worth its own chapter. But what does deserve its own chapter is the media page. Let's look at that actually, because despite its size, it carries some really cool photos and actual evidence we only saw mentioned in text before. The media page is another new page on the website. It starts with a live interview, which is honestly really adorable. It seems whoever recorded this began recording in the middle of an interview with a TV talk show host who's being voiced by Nightmind. They talk about how popular the show got, being a popular character, and the interviewer even asked Wally if he has a love life, which I think we all know he has a line of people, so he's just waiting outside that door. Wally says he loves everyone, including his neighbors, and it's brought up that Wally actually brought a friend with him, Barnaby. The interviewer asks Wally what does he think of his newfound fame, and he responds, "I think it's just the most," before the audio rises and cuts out. It seems really interesting to me that Wally and Barnaby were on a talk show in the human world, which I'm just gonna assume it's because the puppeteer was acting as if Wally was his own person. For now at least. The next part is actually something we briefly discussed before, the animated segments. They recently uncovered a few stills of Julierella, a parody of Cinderella starring Julie as, of course, Cinderella, Frank as the prince, Sally as the king, and Barnaby as the fairy godmother. We can see this style was used for these segments, which reminds me of the old freaking Bass 2D art style a bit, which is perfect because these character designs transfer over perfectly. And this is the very first on-screen footage they found so far, which is pretty exciting, and we can actually see it playing on a TV. It kind of gives you the feeling of what it would look like when it first aired. The last four things are audio files. One actually possibly being featured as a song, but it was probably at the very start of production considering there's no music behind the characters at all. The other audio files are more dialogue based and were assumed to be in episodes can actually give us a sneak peek of what the show was like. Compared to before when all we had was the beginning of a script for an episode, it's really nice having these audio files when before it was just text and a few cryptic pieces. Now the characters' personalities are here and we can actually see what they were portrayed like on the show. But this isn't the most exciting page on the surface. Let's look at the last new page, which was hinted at back in February. Let's look at the Playfill expedition. The Playfill expedition is, well, an expedition of all things Welcome Home. Originally hinted at back in February, it finally arrived and was a huge success. We can even see photos of what it looked like. About 90% of the displays we've already covered in other parts of this video so far, but they're all here, and the masterpiece of this entire thing is the Wally Darling puppet replica, which we've seen before, but not in the canon story of Welcome Home. So it's so exciting to finally see our favorite artist show up in puppet form for the first time. In the information of the Wally replica, we can see that even though they recreated him using sketches, script notes, eyewitnesses, and some screen test footage, at the end it says, unlike many of the other neighbors, we have yet to find a Wally Darling puppet sheet. So the puppet sheets of the other characters do in fact exist, we just don't have access to them yet. We also have a quote from the question answerer about what drew them to this lost media. It seems like everything these days is already neatly cataloged and answered down to the finest details. You can find a book or a website or what have you not to answer any old question that might cross your mind. But Welcome Home was different. The more I looked at it, the more questions there were, and an answer not in sight. It was like a puzzle box that had never been opened before and just begging to be investigated. How could I possibly resist a mystery like that? Especially in such a colorful package. It was a calling I just had to answer. They also enjoyed the expedition. As much as the restoration team had success with the expedition, they did fail at one point, finding someone not a part of the team who knew about the show's existence before. Which is really sad, but oh, right. There's also a bug on this page. Actually, there's a bug on every page. Let's talk about the little critters, but I warn you from here on out, these parts will contain spoilers for what's going on. But now, let's make our way back under the surface of Welcome Home's colorful exterior. Bugs are a new feature of the Welcome Home website, and they're infesting every page. It's like no matter where you turn, you will find one, and they're all clickable. In total, there are about 14 of them scattered across the website that each look very different. The main factor in about 13 of them is actually they fit the Welcome Home world. They're full of colors and hearts and everything you can imagine. Clicking these revealed videos. Each of these would have two characters having a conversation, and Wally would be there, but he wouldn't talk. Each of these bugs had a different mix of characters talking, and you could tell who was who based off the ends of each of the URLs. The first one features Poppy and Howdy. They talk about how Poppy has bought more yarn from Howdy and Vi. She's making sweaters for everyone in the neighborhood for the winter. And here to help her is Wally. Howdy and Poppy continue talking until Howdy says he brought her a new device that could help. A yarn spinner. He lets her try it out for the day and leaves. Poppy talks about it and is unsure to how to use it, before asking Wally for help, and the audio cuts and the video ends. Wally not speaking will be a reoccurring pattern, at least non-verbally speaking, because the next actually features Sally and Poppy talking about how Sally wants a cake made for her play, and Wally is there and he does Morse code with his finger to spell out the word tea, which he is drinking. All of these follow the same exact pattern except for the last one. Unlike all the other videos and bugs, 14 and 14, as I'll call it, the BH link is so much more different. For starters, each of these other videos and bugs were fairly easy to find on the website. The last bug is in an old page you may know as the help page. This page, I stated before, was just an empty page, but now there's a realistic cockroach hiding behind a piece of the episode script. Clicking it revealed the 14th video. This video is different. It's the only video of Home talking to someone else besides Wally for the very first time. In this one, Barnaby is telling Home about the day. The video is being the entire day and wrapping it up. Wally is in the video as well, but Wally is very different. Wally isn't okay and has stopped painting. Barnaby notices that Wally isn't okay and is calling out to him. This is also the only video that doesn't end because someone said Wally's name, which breaks the pattern. But Wally does talk in this update, just not exactly in these videos. We can actually see how he communicates with the audio files. Wally is giving off very strange, cryptic messages throughout this entire update. But something interesting is that sprinkled on the website are little drawings. These drawings are hidden links, and clicking these would send you to a hidden audio file of Wally talking. Each file is supposed to be played in a specific order besides one. I'm gonna play all of these in order so you can actually see what I meant here, and I'll discuss it right after.
There you are. Welcome home. Ha ha ha. You're the most. Ha ha ha. You're so still. What are you doing? What are you waiting for? To hear me again? Ha ha ha. I think that means you can hear me. Can you see me? That's okay if you can't. Don't worry. I know you're there. You know I'm here too. I will talk to you. Do you like home? Home is my house. Do you have a home too? Do you hear it too? You can hear mine. Do you like to draw? I do. Do you know how to draw an eye? First, you draw a circle. Then, you draw a smaller circle inside. Then, you color it in. That's what an eye looks like. My eyes are black. What color are yours? I can't hear you. Do you know who I am? We've looked into each other's eyes so many times. You're looking at me now. I have more eyes than I did before. You know how to draw eyes. You draw mine many times. I know it is thanks to you, neighbor, that I can see. But it is still, I can't see. Why won't you answer me, neighbor? Why can't I hear you? You know me. You do. Please open. Let me in. Let me in.
Alright, so let's get this out of the way. First, the order spells out, I will help you understand, neighbor. I will find a way soon. I'm gonna assume it's just figuring out what's going on, but I'm not exactly sure. The other files tend to become stranger as time goes on as well. Wally starts to have a distortion on a third audio file named Help. It's also the same file which you begin to hear a heartbeat. Wally, as you can tell, is becoming more and more deranged as these continue. The one where he's finally starting to show it is in Find after saying he can't hear us and says we, the viewers, have looked into his eyes many, many times. He even talks about having more eyes, which is a fact because eyes are actually everywhere on the website, even on the extended part of the screen with the new update. But I think one of the most important parts is the fact that in the file named Neighbor, it's just Home speaking. We, of course, can't understand Home, but the strange thing is, compared to the other files, this one is different. The record that shows in all the other ones is a smooth, nice little loop animation. Here, it jitters and violently shakes in place. Even when Wally said to let him in, it was still smooth. And there is an audio file missing from this, the phone call. The phone call can be accessed from the merchandise when you click Wally's button on the It's For You talking telephone. Unlike the other versions, it's not a drawing that will lead you to a final page. It resembles more of the duet file we had before. This phone call is actually really interesting as well. Wally picks up the phone after 3 rings and it starts off very normal for the first 3 seconds, I believe. After saying hello, he laughs. Just kidding, I know you're there, asking if you liked his joke. Then he says, it's hard to hear you think from this funny phone of mine. Like, you weren't speaking. Then he asks if you know who he is and he states, we've never met before, but don't worry, even though you and I have never spoken before, I've seen you every time you've looked into my eyes. He then asks what did we see and says he hopes we saw a friend. He then says, let's start over, then proceeds to make the ringing out, pretending to pick up the phone and greets us saying how it's so lovely to meet us, thanks for the absolute most. Then you can hear a door creak, that being Home. Wally says he has to go, saying everyone is probably thinking about that strange phone call. He also says something about how we have to go too and we have work to do, and leaves us with some very sweet words at the very end.
Remember, until you hear me again, keep your smile merry, and always know that I love you very much. Goodbye.
This is both absolutely adorable and terrifying. But we're not done here. We're going to talk about the very last thing, the most important update piece of them all, and the one I've been saving for the very last before I get to my theories and conclusions. The safe. This part will be the longest because it has the most information about what's currently happening. While looking at the Playfellow expedition, if you scroll to the second paragraph and click answer, you are taken to a page where you're faced with this photo of a piece of paper and you can see a bunch of field codes, and the biggest thing on the entire page is a sentence saying that the code is made of 5 characters. Under you can see it talks about the worksheet answer key, the one from the Playfellow expedition. Clicking this, you are then taken to a save which you'll need to put a code in for using this exact worksheet. It's a fairly simple one, taking the first letter of each of the characters' names, those being Barnaby, Sally, Poppy, Julie, and Wally. It gives you access to a very new page, a very dark page. This page is not only darker, it's more distorted. The logo is all jumbled and the W is spinning. This seems to be a page created by Worker A, the person we spoke about before. They talk about what they're experiencing here. I had a dream when I began working at the Playful Expedition. Wally Darling was sitting at the foot of my bed with a rotary phone in front of him, ringing away. It looked just like the phone we were restoring for the exhibit. It kept ringing. Wally stared at me like he was waiting for me to pick up the phone, just staring, unblinking. The phone is ringing and ringing. I couldn't move. I couldn't figure out how to move and pick up the phone. He kept waiting. I couldn't pick up the phone. I keep getting phone calls now, or at least I assume that's what's happening. I keep hearing it ringing away all day. Sometimes I check my phone and there's no new messages. I thought maybe the site staff were playing a prank on me. But I tore up the workspace and I couldn't find another phone that might be ringing. All that was there were the toys for the exhibit, and obviously those couldn't be ringing. But I kept hearing it ringing away. The phone is ringing and ringing. The more I work, the more questions I have. Why didn't any of the site staff I work with remember the show, even the ones who grew up in the 1970s? Why can't I find any files in the Playfellow workshop? Why isn't there a single TV guide ad saying what time or network the show was on? I keep digging and digging. I've pored over every recovery the Welcome Home restoration team has given me access to. Every inch of their website, and all the things I find make less and less sense. If I didn't know any better, I'd say everyone was coming together and pulling an elaborate prank on me. I can still hear the phone ringing now. I don't know how to answer the phone. I need to answer the phone. Alongside this is overlapping text that is blacked out. Highlighting it, we get this. Ring ring. Hello? Can you hear me? Call me back soon, please. Over and over until the very end where it's changed to, won't you please pick up? Showing the difference in slight change. Worker A is having dreams of Wally and can't pick up the phone, but Wally is trying so desperately hard to contact them. Scrolling down, we get new photos to look at. The back of the expedition. The back is covered in paint, papers are everywhere, and looking up revealed pictures of spirals and an eye. One we actually saw teased out by Clown on Twitter when the website came back up, and the spirals were already a huge staple of the page, being in doodles and resembling Wally's pompadour. We can see a photo of the table and a box of gloves with a sticky note saying if they run out to call someone, presumably the leader of the restoration team. We also see a printed out versions of emails between the restoration team and the question answerer.
Hi, text emitted. Thanks for getting the activity price shipped out so prominently. I wasn't expecting it to arrive in a lockbox. Should I be worried about the value of the prizes for insurance? There actually wasn't a code I could find in the packaging at all. Could you send that so we can open the box and give away those prizes to visitors? Thanks again. Give me a call at text emitted if that's easier.
The response they got from the question answerer was a PNG for the Welcome Home activity worksheet, with blacklight text underneath reading Wally Darling. On top of this printed out email is a sticky note reading, "Attention staff, still waiting on the safe code. If guests complete the worksheet, offer to send the prize later once we get this open." We even get to see some before non-canon art in these photos, one being a Frank and the other one being a Wally. In the photo featuring the Frank drawing, there's a sticky note on the site, partly out of view, but it's fairly easy to guess what it says.
This art was not a part of the shipment. Please stop using the work printer to prank me.
Guessing by what we have so far, I'm going to assume that this is Worker A talking once again. Another photo reveals some questions sent to the restoration team and their answers, but there's actually two answers for these, and the proper one is in blacklight. What is your favorite or least favorite part of the research/restoration work? Our favorite part? Uncovering more information, of course, as well as restoring pieces with beautiful results. Nothing feels quite better than a job well done. Our least favorite part, however, nothing I can think of.
Everything is so disgusting to touch. Sometimes the mail doesn't come for weeks. I want to rip into everything I have. My head feels so muddled too. Ever since I opened that envelope.
You can see a visible area of emails, which is mostly blocked out, and you can actually make out some words, but not any massive sentence or anything that's super important. We also see another sticky note notifying staff to check all artwork with a black light before doing anything but the artwork, and it's supposed to be for condition reports. The next photo, we actually get another email and talks about why they have to wear gloves, which should set off a few alarms.
Hello again, text submitted. The shipment of works for the expedition arrived today. Thanks for being so generous with these items. At some point, I would like to run down a full checklist with you to confirm which are the originals and which are restorations/reproductions, so we can include that information when we write down the dialect labels. Let me know if it's easy for you to email a list or you would like to have a phone call about it. Speaking of restoration, I also wanted to ask, would you like us to have any of the items professionally touched up while we're here for the expedition? I'm sure the folks who usually work with would be thrilled to work on something so unique. Some of them were kids in the 1960s and 70s. Maybe an opportunity to get some eyewitness accounts too. And it seems only fair for us to offer. What you kindly loaning us with all this material for the exhibit. Totally understand if you prefer to keep that work among your team, of course. Just let me know. Excited to call on this display. We'll send photos when we start installing. Text submitted, head curator. Hello, we are overjoyed you have received all the work we have uncovered so far, but please take care of it while it's in your possession. Under no circumstances should it be touched with your bare hands. Please wear gloves. If a substance begins to grow on anything delivered, please place it back in the box it was shipped in and return it to at your leisure. If you or anyone on your team experiences nausea, dizziness, or fatigue, please don't be alarmed. We also thank you for your offer to assist in restoring these pieces, but I cannot accept your offer. Thank you.
The next photo, I assume, comes from Worker A's notes.
WHRP Center Research Notebook. It has to be a prank. Maybe all of it. Maybe that's why no one's ever heard of Welcome Home. The staff, friends, parents, not a memory, all made up to prank me. Specifically? Okay, maybe that's nonsense. I don't know what to think. I feel like I need to read it again. There has to be answers. There has to be. I'll find answers. People need me to find answers. There's more stuff on the walls. I keep hearing phones ring.
The next photo is of two notebooks. The one we see once again is Teased by Clown, saying it's on loan, and the other one saying not to write in it. You can even see the script for the episode Help in the background of this photo. And there's even a note. I'm gonna try and make out most of it, but it's a bit tricky, and I'm gonna skip what I cannot make out.
Hello, my name doesn't matter. I'm here to catalog something. I'm not sure, but it must be. I'm holding all the evidence in my hands, pictures, characters, text I can barely read. It's called Welcome Home, and it looks like it might have been a children's book. Like I said, I really can't tell. It was soaking wet when I found it. When I reached with one of the brightly covered envelopes, my hands are already covered in some glue material. It feels like I'm always covered in some grime. I'm gonna have to do a little bit more digging. The only name I can make out is Wally Darling. Probably. That's all I can make out. Sorry.
The next thing we're going to cover is the questions I had at the very beginning, but also some more theories. Some of them are a little bit far-fetched, so hold out with me. I'm going to start this entire ending with what I began this video with, the questions I had at the very beginning. Will other URLs that didn't work originally now be possible? No, there's no new URLs making a combination of the other words that began this entire cryptic messages with. And honestly, I'm pretty happy about that, considering the massive amounts of new content we have, including the 14 videos. Do other characters know that they're alive? I'm gonna say sort of, and I'll explain in a minute. Is Wally the villain of the story, or is he just another victim? Honestly, I'm leaning towards being a victim here. Wally has rarely shown malicious intent in this entire update, and even the hidden audio files, it felt more like him losing his sanity than him intentionally wanting to hurt you. When before we didn't have enough to make a choice here, we actually can lean one way or the other, but the difference is now that we can actually see more of his character and personality in these updates. He seems relatively harmless, at least for now, but that can always change. But if Wally isn't the victim, then who is? Well, I feel like it's someone we've already guessed in the past. It's Home. Home is so out of place, but there's so much more evidence now to back up this theory. For starters, it's the substance that's leaking under Home and it's now spreading to other parts of the website, mostly the staff-only website, but it's also in real life now. We don't know much about the damage it's done to the neighborhood, but guessing how Wally stated he didn't know where he was, we can guess the damage is pretty drastic. But that's not all. In the last video, the BH link, it's the only time we see in these videos Home is talking to someone and Wally clearly wasn't comfortable. It got to a point where Barnaby was asking if Wally was alright, and this was the only time we've ever heard Home speak to someone else, even in the phone call. Wally said he had to go as soon as Home started speaking. Home is also everywhere, debatably almost as much as Wally. He's the one that leads you back to the main page. Home is even the first thing you see when you click the website link. Even in the pixel art, Home and Wally are never separated with no hearts in between them, unlike the other characters. Even with the first drawing we see, it's actually Wally drawing Home. So even if Wally is an antagonist, I feel like he is a sidekick to Home, which would be really cool to switch off their dynamic from what it was on the show. But that's not really all. I also think we may be able to pinpoint the question answer. I believe at least it's Wally. As said before, Wally is sentient and has been communicating with us along with Worker A, and what's an easier way to spread the word about your long forgotten TV show than helping make an expedition about it? But also, the major thing for me that kind of points to it going that way is in the merchandise page with specifically the Eddie Deer playset. Looking at both of these letters, both are addressed to Wally Darling and both match the handwriting of the characters they're assigned by, one being Howdy and the other one being Frank. Even on the envelope, it also matches Wally's colors along with his handwriting that's being addressed to Barnaby. These are also the same envelopes that started this entire project. It would be fairly easy to hand these old letters to the restoration team. But I also think as time goes on that Wally isn't the only one who's becoming aware of his existence. Take a look at Frank. Not only did this piece of him become canon, this letter matches both his signature at the bottom of the guestbook and the letter from the merchandise page. So Wally isn't the only one becoming aware of their situation now. Honestly, these will probably be debunked later, but for now, I won't preach their stability because it's the best we can do for now. So I'll just wait to the next update so we can fully say that we have evidence to make a stable enough theory about a timeline we can base everything off of. It's hard to tell where the story is going to go, but honestly, I really enjoyed looking at this website over and over, making sure I got everything, even double checking. The website is expanding in such beautiful ways, and I gotta say, it's such an amazing thing hearing the character voices after guessing for months of what they would sound like. The people working on this project really know what they're doing, and the stuff they're making for this update is mind-blowing. Videos is one thing, but physical fake merchandise of a fake TV show is an entirely different ballgame, and it's absolutely amazing. Honestly, if they ever did make these talking telephones a real thing, I would absolutely buy one. Welcome Home is a project that has been frequently updating, and I think it's the best part because there's a massive amount of passion behind it. I always enjoy my stop at the website, even if it's just looking over stuff for a script, because I know when I'm gonna stop into Wally's world, I'm gonna have a great time doing it. If you haven't, please check out the website. The link will be down in the description because this is something I always recommend looking at yourself, but also just having some information going into it is super fun either way. Thank you all so much for watching. I always enjoy talking about Welcome Home, and you can bet I'll be back to talk about this another day. For now though, I'll see you later. And of course, try not to wander into any more haunted houses. Bye bye!